In the field, the comparison between the scholarship of teaching and learning, the big long title, and scholarly teaching is made often. That's a very common kind of comparison. I think they're easily distinguished. Scholarly teaching is more about consuming, using, applying scholarship. So the decisions I make as a university teacher need to be informed by something. They need to be informed by my own experience, by my conversations with colleagues, maybe just by my intuition. We've been doing that for a long time, and that's in its own way fine. For the scholarly teacher, however, there's a much broader set of places where you can go to be informed. And indeed, you use scholarship. So you go to a literature, or you just find information that is more systematically collected and more reliable, probably more valid than the intuitions and hunches you've been using before. So the scholarly teacher is someone who is informed by the scholarship. Those who are engaged in the scholarship of teaching and learning aren't so much the consumers as the producers. So we often talk about this distinction when we teach statistics, actually. We talk about whether or not you need to learn statistics so that you can consume them or produce them. And in the scholarship of teaching and learning, we think more about production of that scholarship. We're expanding our view of what that might mean. It's not just about empirical research. There are a number of ways you can contribute as you produce, but that's distinct from using. Of course, the same people go back and forth between both categories, but I think the distinction still holds.
I'm actually one of the people who is probably responsible for that distinction because it appeared in an article that I co-wrote with Lee Shulman, who was the president of the Carnegie Foundation at the time, and I was his vice president. I know that's been a helpful distinction to a lot of people. In some ways, I wish we hadn't made it. I like to think of those as part of a larger whole. I think that all faculty at various times in their careers can bring the kinds of habits I was just talking about, habits of inquiry, questioning, evidence gathering, to their work as teachers. I don't care whether you call that scholarly teaching or the scholarship of teaching and learning. I think it should be part of the repertoire of all teachers in various ways, to various degrees. As I say, part of the work of all teachers. So sometimes it can take more, what should we say, mature forms. It can become a very sophisticated piece of published work. Sometimes it's more local and evolving. It might just be something I'm thinking about, working on, talking with you about. That thing might become the other thing. But I don't like to separate those two things out from each other. I don't think they're different in character. I think they're related phenomena on a continuum or in a cycle.
There is an interesting conversation in our field about the difference between scholarship of teaching and scholarly teaching. I take a kind of peculiar view on that question. I think that those things that some people call scholarly teaching are in fact scholarship, because I use maybe a different definition. To me, scholarship of teaching reaches that level. It becomes scholarship when it is visible to a community, that enables that community to use what you found, enables that community to critically review it, that you're public enough, you make your work visible, and you accept commentary from others. And then if it is complete enough in the way you make it visible, they can take that idea and expand it or make it bigger. So to me, that's what makes work scholarly, is it's public and it's amenable to those kinds of audience reactions. I suppose one could call scholarly teaching if all you do is read other people's scholarship about teaching and then enact it in some way, but you don't continually engage in inquiry or make your results public. Where I guess I differ from some is I don't think you have to go through the conventional, print journal peer review to become, to make it scholarship. We have reasonable range of opinion on that within our organization.
I like to think of two relationships with scholarly teaching. First of all, it can be an intensification of scholarly teaching. If by scholarly teaching you mean thinking about consulting literature or people who are expert and have interesting ideas about teaching and learning in your field or in the wider area of faculty development, many different literatures are possible to inform what you do in the classroom. And if you are carefully designing your course with some of those ideas in mind, or your program with some of those ideas in mind, and keeping a close eye in your mind on what students are doing in your classroom, that's scholarly teaching. And to me, that is, and the scholarship of teaching can be an intensification of that. So many people who are scholarly teachers might then take a next step and do a more formal inquiry. However, at the same time, the scholarship of teaching and learning is an invitation to scholarly teaching. Somebody who is engaged in a scholarship of teaching and learning project, because of the question they're asking, will frequently be propelled into literature either in their own field or elsewhere. They'll think about things differently, and that will make a difference in their teaching all along the way. So I see it as having a relationship on either side of the scholarly teaching, with ultimately, for me, the scholarly teaching is the goal of the scholarship of teaching and learning, not just for the individual, but for the whole community of teachers in your field, in your department, in your institution. By doing the scholarship of teaching and learning, especially taking that going public step, you're contributing to better and more informed conversations about teaching and learning that can stimulate scholarly teaching among others who might not even consider taking that step into the scholarship of teaching and learning.